Good morning, everyone. So why do I highlight the stories of Cannon Hinnant, who was a 5-year-old boy riding his bike in front of his house when his neighbor came outside and shot him point blank in the head, killing him? And 17-year-old Veronica Baker, who was sitting in her car in the parking lot of a fast food restaurant when she was gunned down. Well, firstly, I want to pay tribute to the victims who had lost their lives prematurely to the violence and hatred that unfortunately exists in this country. And secondly, and more importantly, it's to counter the mainstream media narrative who likes to cherry pick stories and play them on looping repeat, and more specifically, they select stories of white people killing or victimizing black people. And what this does is it creates a narrative that there is all these white supremacists, that there's all these racists running around killing black people, and America is systemically racist. And the way they maintain this narrative is by cherry picking specific stories, playing them on looping repeat, and ignoring pretty much all other types of violence. Why is it also important to recognize that there are other types of violence? Because it chips away at that narrative, and that narrative is very toxic, and it destroys the country, and it tears it apart. And when you realize there is other types of interracial violence, there is white on black crime, there is black on white crime, there's both. It starts to chip away at that narrative when you realize that there's other types of violence as well. But even more importantly than that, I like to look at crimes in order of prevalence. And you would think that the media, if they were honest, they would focus on the most prevalent types of crimes, because that way we could solve the biggest problems here in America. And I've done this in some of my past videos where I highlight some of the deaths in the inner cities. The most prevalent type of crime in this country is black on black crime. And black on black crime is simply just a number. There's no faces, there's no names. When you see the reports coming out every single weekend in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in New York, it's basically just a number. There's this many shootings, there's this many deaths, but rarely do they tell the stories. Do they give the names? Do they show the faces of the victims? Because that way it really hits home. You can really start to when you hear someone's story, it really changes everything. You start to feel compassion, you start to feel empathy for the person, rather than just recognizing them as a number that is reported in the totality of deaths in that given weekend in Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, etc. So if the media was honest, the most common type of crime that they would cover in order of prevalence is black on black crime. And this would actually help solve the #1 problem in America, which is the most prevalent crime. But of course, the media is extremely dishonest, they're extremely biased, and it's important to point that out because the toxic media in this country is tearing this country apart and fanning the flames of racial division and pushing these false narratives that America is systemically racist, and that the biggest threat to black people in America is racist white police officers, when the statistics of a black person being killed by a police officer while unarmed are astronomical. The actual statistic is 1 in 3 million. An unarmed black person has a 1 in 3 million chance of being killed by a police officer while unarmed. But instead, due to the media's bias, due to them fanning the flames of racial division, all of our efforts and focus are going toward trying to solve a problem that has an astronomical probability of killing someone, rather than facing the most prevalent problem of black on black crime in our inner cities. So that, along with interracial violence, all of these things together that chip away at the mainstream media narrative, that is why it is so important to highlight these other stories of black on white crime, and especially of black on black crime, because we need to solve the biggest problems that exist in America. And this is why I highlight stories like Cannon Hinnant, Veronica Baker, as well as the black on black crime, which is most prevalent in our inner cities. Anyway, that's my video. Thanks for watching. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe, and I will see you all next time.